Kevin Cronin, how are you, sir?
Good, Jim. How are you, brother?
Wonderful. Everybody in the Motor City's holding on. I love the whole thing that you're doing. These chat sessions, these stories from Camp Cronin. They're so much fun. You and Tommy were absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, Tommy, he's just the best, man. And yeah, I want to. It's been a while, so I was just thinking the other day. I kind of miss him. It's been about probably. It's actually been a month at least since that. It seems like yesterday. Well, every day seems like it's like who knows what day it is, right?
Do you talk to? I mean, does the sort of thing like I know, like in our industry in radio, we talk with other people around the country because we don't get to see them. We're not going to Chicago for a conference this summer. Do you talk with other musicians? Do you find that's cathartic for you?
Yeah, I do. We're all kind of going through this thing together, and all of us would like to be out on tour. Playing our music. Interacting with the fans, and everyone's just got to figure out what works for them as far as keeping that connection, and that connection to the Reo Speedwagon family out there is really important to me. The longer I'm not on the road, it's like we've been touring so long that it's just like that's what we do. We automatically, I get my suitcase and start packing. I don't even know where I'm going half the time, and so you kind of become accustomed to it. And now, without touring all this time, it really, as I say, it makes me realize how much I really do need that connection with our fans. And so, necessity being the mother of invention, we figure stuff out.
Any talk? Is there talk about a reunion tour in Mexico with the magician? I love that story. I love that story, Kevin.
I do expound upon that story in the book that I'm writing, and but that was perhaps. I mean, there have been a number of low points in our career, as also a number of high points as well. But the low points seem to be funnier, and that was definitely one of them. And that's a true story, man. That we pull up in front of this venue in Mexico City. This was in late 1989, and we had just gone through the whole shakeup with the band and the new guys, and we didn't know what we were doing. And we pull up to the venue, and there, in English, on the marquee, Reo Speedwagon plus ventriloquist act. And it was like, the only thing that made me feel a little better about it was the fact that the first time I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, which changed my life dramatically, Senor Wences, the famous ventriloquist who just basically spoke into a box for 2 minutes, all right, sarai, all right, sarai. So I felt like, all right, if the Beatles could have a ventriloquist act in front of them, so could we.
And then, well, that's your Spinal Tap moment, right? I mean, that's definitely, and by the way, talked to Dennis DeYoung yesterday, and you're not alone. He had the same thing when they started out one time. They actually were on the same bill with a puppet, with a puppeteer.
Nice. Yeah. That's what this guy was. And we were also in the same dressing room. So we had our wardrobe cases kind of set up in a little, to give us a little privacy. And we were all sitting there, we're going, man, this is bullshit, man. We must have said this is bullshit, I don't know how many times. And all of a sudden, here comes the ventriloquist dummy over the road case saying, this is bullshit. I'm like, no.
You mentioned, Kevin, you're writing a book, which thank you, first and foremost. Is there something in your timeline over the arc of Reo Speedwagon when you guys broke, like say the early 80s, late 70s, whatever that period was? Wouldn't say you had wrong, but maybe you misremembered. Does that make sense? Like suddenly as you're writing this book, you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this.
Yeah, no, that happens all the time. That's why it's taking me so long. Well, it's part of why it's taking me so long. But yeah, as you write the story, you remember one thing, and then that leads you to another thing. And you talk about Dennis DeYoung. It's really funny because I think this is my 8th run through the book, right? And so I've been home, and there was a couple of particular anecdotes that I wanted to run past my wife, just because she's been my partner for 30 years. And I just want to, give her a chance to go, I wanted to read this stuff for the first time when the book comes out. So we were kind of working together on this one particular chapter. Now, I was reading it to her and she was kind of responding. And I realized that her input made this particular chapter not only more accurate, but better. She asked me questions, and made me dig a little bit deeper. And I'm like, Lise, you want to start from the beginning and just go through this with me? And, it's like, what, are we busy? So it's been,
where are you going?
So I realized that her influence brings the same thing to this book as her spirit and her energy has brought to my life. She's made me a better person, and this working with her on the book is making the book better. So trying to make a long story short, but so I'm reading this chapter about an incident in 1967 where my band, Fuchsia, was in a battle of bands at my high school against a band called the TW4. And the TW4, they were from a different high school, different neighborhood, but they kind of had a vibe. And we heard about them. And I heard that they had this keyboard player, lead singer, who was really talented, really good, named Dennis DeYoung. And so my first, the Reo Speedwagon Styx connection goes back to when I was in high school.
Wow.
And, yeah. So, so Dennis, so Lisa says to me, well, Dennis DeYoung, you're just going to like mention him in passing about this battle of bands. And I'm like, well, and then I started thinking about it. And so Dennis has become kind of a little subplot to the story, which is kind of been a lot of fun. And so you kind of, I can't give the whole thing away, but
no,
I'm having a lot of fun.
Got to read the book. Got to read the book, right?
Read the book. I got to finish the book first.
When's your goal for the date? Do you have a date in mind for the book? When would you like to release it? In an ideal world, when would this happen?
Well, ideally, it would happen in early 2021 to coincide with the 40th anniversary of High Fidelity and a potential big tour that we would be doing. Now we're everything's kind of being retooled and reworked, and that big tour probably won't happen until 2022 because all the shows that are on the books for this year have to kind of be pushed into next year. It's it's really a mess, I'll be honest with you, and but we got to do what we got to do. People have to be healthy. I don't want to put our fans, our crew, our band in any kind of jeopardy. And so we're going to stay home and just wait until it's really safe for people to congregate and get out and rock and roll. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of no one knows quite when, and no one can, because this is it's amazing how a tiny little microscopic germ can bring the entire planet to its knees. It's mind-boggling, but it's real, we got to deal with it.
It was the same thing in the 90s when Zima came out. Same effect.
Fairly, you're right. Now that I think about it.
We call it the Zima effect. It's a technical term. A lot of people don't realize that.
And strangely enough, Zima was the sponsor of our Mexican tour that we did in 1990. So, maybe there's some kind of, I'll have to figure that out.
With the vulgar ventriloquist? Yeah, that was the one. So you get back to your right about the book. A couple of years ago, we had Phil Collins on when his book came out. And we're reading through it, and they're telling all these amazing stories of him with Eric Clapton and the beginning days, with Genesis and all this, and their first time coming over to the States. And in the middle of Madison Square Garden and the LA Forum is Eastern Michigan University, Ypsilanti, Michigan. And we're like, wait a minute, what? And we asked him, and he goes, I just remember venues where they really appreciated us when we first started. And for some reason, Eastern Michigan and Ypsilanti, and he couldn't even say, he goes, Ypsilanti, Michigan. Do you have places like that in the Detroit area? Because I found a show with you guys and Joe Walsh at the East Town, I think it was.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, we have such a rich history with the city of Detroit. I mean, going back to the early 70s where we used to play. Alan Gratzer, our drummer's brother, went to school in East Lansing. So we used to play the Silver Dollar Saloon in East Lansing. And that was just, we used to tear that place apart. It was so much fun because we'd have a big show there, pack the place, and then, you know, invite half the crowd back to Gary Gratzer's house for the after party. And the after party would normally last for at least 2 to 3 days. So it it was a lot of fun. And then now there wasn't, okay, this is one that I can't remember, but we played a venue. It was in 72 or maybe early 73. It was a theater, and it wasn't the Fox. What theater did you just mention?
That could have been the East Town with you guys and Joe Walsh.
Could have been the East Town. It was a funky place, man. It was a kind of a rundown place. You know, we used to tour with the James Gang back in the early days. Maybe that's what you're talking about. But you know, and then of course we played. What's the place? The circular place downtown. Cobo.
We played a lot of Cobo. Yeah.
A lot of Cobo. And of course, Pine Knob. And, you know, no matter what they try to name it, sorry, it's Pine Knob. So, yeah, the people of Detroit have supported our band through thick and thin. I mean, you know, because over a near 50-year career, you know, you have your ups and downs, you know, in popularity. And there are certain places, Detroit being one of them, which people in Detroit don't care if we've got a hit record on the radio. We just formed a connection with them early on, and it's just a beautiful thing. And so it's great for me to have a chance to connect directly to the people of Detroit. So this is awesome.
We miss you guys so much, and a summer without shows at Pine Knob, just, you know.
I know, it's weird. It's just bizarre. It's you know, I have to pinch myself. You know, every night, you know, my wife and I get into bed and we just kind of, you know, because you go through your day and you do your thing, and then we lay there and we go, this is really happening. Like we're really in a headlock here. You know, we really can't do the things that we want to do, and we have to figure out other things that we can do that kind of replace some of those things. And so, you know, talking to you here on, you know, where we can see one another, and like I say, doing my little Camp Cronin things, and then Saturdays at noon I do my little live stream with my daughter Holly, which is,
so she picks the tunes tomorrow, right?
She picks the questions.
And, really? Okay,
yeah,
all right, okay.
Yeah, people write in questions to the Facebook page or the website, wherever, and Holly looks through them and she picks the questions that she wants to ask. And I have a feeling that tomorrow she's going to be digging a little deeper. You know, she's going to be trying to stump me, I have a feeling. So we'll see what happens. But it's fun. I mean, my daughter is an amazing person, and so I like to give her an opportunity to get out there too.
Well, and then you have to be proud that doing an interview in Detroit, and I haven't made you play Golden Country, which we make you play every time you're in Detroit. It's by law. You have to, or you can't leave. You're required.
Absolutely.
You have to play that.
Yes, of course. So are you telling me that I have to play it right now? I will.
You will. Don't dare. You got your guitar?
Come on. I'm in Camp Cronin Studios here.
I know.
Which is basically our little guest house out in the back. And as I said, it's my iPad attached to a music stand. So hang on one sec.
All right.
Let me see what I can find here. I need to find a guitar pick.
I didn't really think he was going to do this. This is awesome.
And,
check it out. There goes
got a guitar over here. I think I'll try the hockey stick. That seems to be see if I'm in tune. See if I'm even close to being in tune here. Hang on. Haven't warmed up my voice. So this could be, this could go down as an embarrassing moment here. I'll be honest with you. Hang on, let me just get situated here. golden country, your face is so red. With all of your money, your poor can be fed. It's all around, and you're through with disaster. Never really caring just what comes after. Your backside die, but your back is still turned. And your freaks are crying, but your back is still turned. You better stop your hiding, or your country will burn. Time's come for you, my friend. To all of this ugliness, we must put an end. Before we leave, we must make a stand. Ooh, yeah. Mortgage people, you crawl to your homes. Your security lies in your dead white phone. All around, and you're through with disaster. Never really caring just what comes after. Backside die, but your back is still turned. Whoa, and your freaks are crying, but your back is still turned. You better stop your hiding, or your country will burn. You don't want to see it burn. Time has come for you, my friend. To all of this ugliness, we must put an end. Before we leave, we must make a stand. We must make a stand. Gotta make a stand. Oh. Ooh. We'll keep on living in the golden country.
So good. Suddenly, the sun came out in the Motor City because of that. You made us so happy this weekend. My wife's in the next room. Kathy's clapping. You are the best.
Nice. Thank you, Kathy.
Fantastic. Man, I can't wait for this book and then obviously watching you on YouTube again. Well, you got your guitar. I'm not going to ask you another song. I don't want to do that. But I mean, I do, but I don't. Is it true, and this is always an urban legend, that you had 10 years to finish the song? It took you 10 years to finish the song.
There is a song that took me 10 years to finish, yes.
But it was the chorus, right? What were you hung up on?
Well, I was working on Can't Fight This Feeling, and wrote the verses and wrote a chorus at the time, and it was perhaps the worst chorus of all time. It went something like this. Let me see. Baby, you're my guiding light, showing me the way, like a candle in the window on a winter's night. Whoa, baby, you're my guiding light. So the one line about candle in the window, I kind of salvaged that and used it. And yeah, it took about 10 years. I tell the whole story in the book. It's a long, sordid tale, which includes characters such as the Raspberries' Eric Carmen. He played a role in it. Yeah, it's you know, when you look back on your life, it's a lot different than how it looked when you're going through it. You know,
well, was it? Well, I'm sorry. Was it bouncing around in your head though? Because we've always heard Joe Walsh said life in the fast lane was nothing more. The guitar riff was just him warming up his fingers before a show, and Glenn Frey runs in going, "That's an Eagles song. Stop." Did you have this in the back of your head for 10 years, like bouncing around? It would just come up occasionally?
Yeah, it would come up occasionally. You know, the verses, I always kind of, I felt they were something kind of special. And I wrote the verses took me about 20 minutes. They just kind of came out. But the truth was I kind of hadn't lived the chorus yet. And I'll never forget. I had a meeting with Clive Davis, and I played him the demo, and the original demo had that chorus that I just played, and the song was called "My Guiding Light." And the verses went by, and I could, when you're playing a song or a demo for somebody, you're always kind of checking them out of your peripheral vision to see, their body language, see if they're grooving or not, right? And Clive is grooving along, man, and the chorus came, and I knew it, and I could tell that he knew it. He reached around, stopped the cassette, and I'm like, oh, geez, and I knew it. I knew that chorus was not good, but Clive's reaction was kind of like the final nail in the coffin. I knew I just knew I had to write a better chorus.
So on the other side of the coin, then, what was the song that just like that you wrote it? It all came to you. The muse spoke to you, and you just cranked it out.
Oh man, "Roll with the Changes" was kind of like that.
Yeah.
I wrote that in the car, and I had I was steering with my knees, writing the lyrics on a brown paper bag. I was between Denver and Albuquerque. I guess that's the I-40, and so songs come. There's no rhyme or reason, man. They just come when you least expect them. And, I think those of us who have managed to make a career out of it kind of don't let any of those moments slip away. It's like, I Keep on Loving You. The verses came in the middle of the night. I could have just as easily rolled over and gone back to sleep, but I didn't, and so that's part of songwriting is just making sure, my friend Jimmy Peterick, he's got a recorder, a notebook. You'll be walking through the airport with him, and all of a sudden he'll disappear. It's like, where did Jimmy go? And then you look around, and here he is over in the corner, scrolling down in his notebook, and that's what you got to do.
So is your book going to have a thing about Pretty Pat Benatar? I remember
What's that?
But did you call him Pretty Pat Benatar once?
Oh yeah, I did call. It was a tour we were doing with. I'm trying to think. I think it was us, Fleetwood. The Fleetwood Mac without Lindsay and Stevie.
Right, Peter Green. Yeah,
Yeah. With Billy Burnett and Becca Bramlett, who I love. Oh my God. So yeah, I made a comment about Pat's appearance, which I meant as a compliment, but and I never met Spider. So the first time I met him, I thought we were going to talk about how great the tour was going, but he made it pretty clear that he didn't appreciate the comment, and so it's like, hey, that's his wife. It's like, that's true. I got to be careful what I say, and Spider and I have gone on to become, he's a neighbor and a friend.
Great guy. How is she not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, I know there's so many ones that not, but that woman changed fashion, and people emulated her for the better part of a decade. That alone, how is she not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I know, they got nominated this year, and I was pretty sure that they were going to get in, and it was kind of a shock when they didn't. But sometimes artists, bands don't get in the first time they're nominated, and
right.
So it's just a matter of time for Pat and Spider. They'll be in there.
Well, before we wrap up, and you've been so gracious with your time, Kevin, I want to give you the floor. I want you to talk to the people of Motor City and tell them just how you've been feeling it. And your stories from Camp Cronin are uplifting for a lot of people. It's such a positive message. And you guys are always so positive and enthusiastic, and you bring it when you're on stage. So if you get a chance to talk to the men and women in the Motor City right now, what do you want to tell them?
Well, I guess I would say that, Reo Speedwagon, as we were saying earlier, we've had our ups and downs throughout the years. And I think the main lesson that I've taken from it is that, there are going to be periods of time where things don't exactly go your way. And, the key is, what are you going to do to come back from it? What are you going to take from it? What are you going to learn from the rough times that bring you back from those rough times and make the good times that follow better? And so, my thing is, this is a this is a crazy period. None of us have ever lived through anything like this. Nobody knows the answers. My thing is that if I'm going to listen to anybody right now, I'm going to listen to medical professionals, doctors who have been studying this for their whole life, and their coordination with local leaders who can put things together in an orderly fashion. And one thing that struck me over the past few days, and I know the people of Michigan are dying to get back to work. We all are. We all want to get back to doing what we do, but I think that it's potentially a mistake to open up things too quickly. And if I were a doctor or a nurse or somebody, risking their life every day, I would say that people need to pay attention to the information that's coming from these great medical minds. And I know it's difficult. And so I just hope people will be as patient as they can. And when the restrictions start to ease, still keep in mind the things that we've been doing over the past few months that have gotten things to a better place. Everybody's got to keep washing their hands, keep wearing the masks out in public, keep that distance between yourself and other people, and just keep praying that the scientists come up with a vaccine, because until that vaccine comes, we don't know what's coming next. So, I love the people of Michigan, and I understand that people are getting stir crazy. Like I say, people want to get back to doing what they do, and we will. We're going to get there. My thing is always things are going to get better. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Awesome. Kevin Cronin, we love you in the Motor City. Again, new episode, Songs and Stories from Camp Cronin, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific tomorrow. Holly will be reading the questions, and it seems you're kind of nervous. Holly's got some doozies for you tomorrow?
I don't know. I'm not privy to any of the information until the cameras roll. So yeah, we'll be streaming live tomorrow, noon, 3 o'clock Detroit time, and then every Thursday I do the song and story, which
okay.
So I think, let's see, we just finished the 9 Lives album, so we're getting real close to some of the high infidelity stories. So that'll be probably next Thursday. We'll be kind of dipping our toes into high infidelity.
And I would be remiss if I don't mention Ozark. You're in Ozark. You're in Ozark. I mean, come on, you're a rock star. Well, you're already a rock star, but now you're a rock star and a Netflix star.
Isn't that cool? Is that the coolest thing ever? I mean, but here's the thing, in the episode, all the other characters are fictional, but at one point, the Reo Speedwagon's manager, Dickie, our manager's name is Tommy, Jason Bateman is not really Marty Bird, but the manager calls Kev to see if Kev wants to launder money through the Reo Speedwagon merchandise company, and Kev says yes. And I'm like, wait, dude, I'm strictly nonfiction at this point in my life. I can't say I always have been, but no, it was a great experience, man. We had a blast down there, and
it's awesome.
I can tell you, yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, and it really just kind of breathed new life into Time for Me to Fly. It's great when our music gets to be exposed to a new generation, and the Ozark people just did us such a solid. And when I saw the name of the episode, I pretty much dropped my popcorn. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Kevin Cronin was here. I mean, come on. All right, real quick pitch for you, though. You could tie into the next season of Narcos that you guys are playing in Mexico, and you come across a drug lord who's a ventriloquist.
Right. He smuggles drugs into the country inside ventriloquist dumps.
Yes. That's it. And then it'll say, Kevin Cronin is bullshit. That'll allow us to say right there for the title.
That'll be the title.
We're done.
I'm totally in.
There's
Thank you very much, my friend.
Kevin Cronin, you're the best. Stay safe. Give the best to your family and everybody out there in Reo Speedwagon. And of course, songs and stories from Camp Cronin. Of course, REOSpeedwagon.com and on YouTube as well. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thanks to your wife for the support there. And, let's do this again.
Absolutely. Whenever you want. You got an open book, man. Thanks, Kev.
All right, brother. Bye-bye, Jim.